All right, mic check. I always wanted to do that. My name is Mike. Seriously, check the mic. Hey, good afternoon. I want to thank you guys for being here at this session in the Sharpening Our Competitive Edge stage. I am Mike Black. I'm the Vice President for Defense at ASCII International. And it's my pleasure to introduce this afternoon's session, Marine Corps Network Modernization. And so joining us today, not in any particular order as far as my introductions, but Daniel Corbin, the DCI Technical Director and Marine Corps Senior Information Security Official, Garang Dave, a CTO, Marine Corps Systems Command, Keegan Mills, Engineering, IT, and Cyber Tech Lead, Marine Corps Systems Command, and then Sherry Thomas, CTO of the Marine Corps Cyberspace Command. Now, this panel will discuss policy, governance, acquisition, technology, and operational perspectives, inform industry partners on areas where they can gain further advantages. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to the panel in which Sherry Thomas will be the moderator. So, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Mike. And Mike, I'm pretty sure everybody can hear my mic too, right? Okay, very good. First question is for the audience. What happened today? What is special about today? January 28th. Anybody? Okay, yeah, I'd like to start off like this because 39 years ago, there's something called the Challenger explosion happened. And the reason I mentioned that, right? Cybersecurity today is a no-fail mission. We got to make sure anything that's doing in terms of industry's capabilities, in terms of what we are talking about today, right? That policy aligns with the strategy, with the operations, with what that Marine or any service member is getting used in terms of technology, right? We're taking it for granted, but they are the operational users and they got to make sure it works. Two particular things that we're going to be hitting on is resiliency, right? One particular area with that was the O-rings, right? There was a lack of resiliency on that. And then the other part, as we continue to build on this network that has been formed over many, many decades and years, is there enough redundancy in the network, right? In terms of if something is bad or in terms of cybersecurity issues, anything, are we able to pivot? And we'll talk about that too. Up top here, it says sharpening the competitive edge. We better be sharpening because we never know. We better be ready every day. Fight tonight is the Marine Corps motto, so we better be ready today. What the panel here that I have mentioned pretty quickly by Mike, but I'll do it again. Dan to my right, he'll be talking about in terms of the policy governance side from the Marine Corps perspective. Mr. Dave here, he will be talking from the Systems Command side as the acting chief engineer, and also in terms of what those programmers' record systems, the tactical side is looking for from the industry partners and how to bring it tighter from the the cyber technology officer lens too. Individual on the far right for you all is Mr. Keegan Mills, and he'll talk from the technology side, how the network and how things are today from the Department of Defense, Marine Corps side, and how to improve upon it from all the industry partners out there. And I will talk from the operational perspective because we are seeing adversary action on our network and networks every single day. And we are taking appropriate actions both on behalf of U.S. Cyber Command, U.S. Space Command, and Headquarters Marine Corps. So I'll stop there in terms of those things, and I'll give it up to the panel members to do quick introductions.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dan Corbin. Like Sherry and Mike mentioned earlier, I am the Chief Technology Advisor. I'm the Chief Technology Advisor at DCI IC4. When you think about what my duties are, they're really for those items, technology, innovation, that's sort of within the fit up. Marine Corps has a larger organization, does all the R&D, sort of the larger scope. But I'm also the CISO and the authorizing official for the services level capabilities within the Marine Corps, which when we talk about all of the policies. And for the record, I do not develop policy. I only implement it in the process associated with it. But so in that regard, we are constantly trying to ensure that the gaps within the Marine Corps are satisfied and the requirements are satisfied from a information perspective.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Garang Dave. If you didn't notice, my last name spells Dave. Call it Dave. Makes it easier for everybody to know. Cyber Technology Officer from Marine Corps Systems Command. As earlier stated, Marine Corps Systems Command is the only acquisition command in the Marine Corps where we work across the affiliated PEOs, which is PEO Digital, PEO Manpower, Labor, and Business, PEO Land System, and other various PEOs like C4I and Navy IWS as well. So today I'm going to talk about how our job as an acquisition professional, what we do to support, the Commandant's planning guide that was released last year, in support of the force design, where he talks about building ability and velocity in the acquisition process where we can deliver capabilities to the warfighter in a speed of need. And additionally, we'll talk about the cybersecurity, the importance of the cybersecurity role. I also serve as a Marine Corps acquisition authorizing official, acquisition AO, for all the program of records that we have. We'll touch base on some of those challenges. We are modernizing that. Hopefully we'll get to talk about that. And additionally, the things that we are looking after, how do we become, provide the agility to the Marine Corps in terms of moving on to adopting DevSecOps processes and delivering the apps and capabilities to the warfighter without going through a lot of other processes for approval. So looking forward to talking some of those areas. Before I give the mic to Keegan, I want to thank you all for joining us in this session. I really appreciate your time, especially the Marine Corps leadership for being here. Really appreciate your support here as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Ooh, hot mic. I'm Keegan Mills, Engineering and Cyber Technology Lead for Marine Corps Systems Command, and that's a really long-winded way of saying that I'm a professional nerd. It is a fantastic job. I get to spend most of my time thinking about network modernization and what we're doing to enable a high-end competition. And I spend my time talking to these gentlemen pretty much every day, all day, about zero trust and data-centric security and mission partner environments and DDIL and all of the things that we have to deal with that I never, ever, ever had to dream of when I was a CIO for a private company. So the consequences of failure, totally different here. We have a really interesting problem set that we get to work in, really challenging space, but we're good people. We have great team. We have great partnership with industry. We have great partnerships across the department, outside the department, and we're up to this. So thanks for being here.
Okay, now, something that you all probably heard about from various different DoD entities. Everybody, show of hands. Do you know what the Unified Network is, or have you heard about Unified Network? Okay, good. And probably from each of our industry partners, you're probably providing some component to that unified network. Now, from all of our different lenses, we're going to provide in terms of what we have done to date on that unified network for the Marine Corps, which is a Marine Corps Enterprise Network, what it means for the echelon or the tactical edge users, and why it is critical for operational success from the different purviews that we have. So first question, what is the vision for achieving a unified network at echelon within the Marine Corps? And why is it critical for operational success? And we'll start with the governance side.
I'll first start by sort of giving a history lesson of where we were and where we're trying to go. So, many of you probably recall the Department of the Navy went to this thing called NMCI, and that had a implementation, and its vision was to have this single enterprise network within the Department of the Navy. Never turned out that way. Each of the two services had their tactical side, had their garrison side, and then across the two services, even those were separated. And sometime in the 2011 or 12 or so, when the Marine Corps bought back its network from the NMCI contractor at the time, it was their vision at that time that we want a single enterprise network, which allows us to provide secure information with high confidence that it can get to all the users to support decision making, because that's what it's really all about, is to be able to get information to the warfighter or any decision maker in a secure fashion. So that's the vision, is to be able to get that information to them. But when you start to go to put in place any of the solutions that the vendors provide or the contractors provide or anybody else implements, you start to put constraints on what you can do in the future with that. And not necessarily bad, but when we don't do it in a very deliberate way, it ends up causing constraints in the future on the things that we can do. So one of the primary functions that we have at C4 is to ensure that architecture of all of those solutions that get in place are there to support the strategy of the Marine Corps, which is to provide this capability to the warfighter and the users ashore to be able to make the decisions that support the missions of the Marine Corps. So that's what we're trying to do. What we do from a governance standpoint, and it all flows from these various regulations and policies from DoD that allow us to do that. When I talk about the constraints of the solutions that we implement within the Marine Corps, it also goes up at the higher echelons. Every time they decide on a implementation of a solution, it puts a constraint on us, and then we have to deal with it. So, for example, if you look at there's a large number of people in Hawaii today really talking about the solution, this convergence of solutions that will support us for the Mission Partner Network. Some of you guys probably know what that is, to allow us to do the same thing, provide the information to the people that need to make a decision when we're in peacetime and in conflict. So to be able to do that, we all have to have an appreciation of what the end state is and what the architecture is, because every time there's a new solution injected into our network environment, it puts a constraint on something. That's what we don't have our arms around, I think, in total, is the ability to do that.
Yeah, let me take it to the one step further to help understand those of you may not know how the government requirement flows with the money, resources, and the acquisition cycle. So on the acquisition side, we really have to work together in a triangle, shape other organizations within the Marine Corps. So we have a DC Deputy Commandant for Combat Development and Integration, CDNI, who's responsible for creating and requirements for what is needed to be acquired. Additionally, the resources that comes from DCPNR program and resources to this acquisition command, where we take the resources of requirement and go off and get the delivery or solution. In this case, we work very closely with our affiliated PEO. So PEO Digital has the enterprise capability that supports the Marine Corps enterprise network unification perspective. So we have a Marine Corps Enterprise Network director embedded within the PO Digital who executes all this requirement, and the technical authority that we derived from Secretary of Navy's instructions to make sure that Marine Corps requirements are met as required. And then going back to the Commandant's planning guide, as you know, bottom line there is that we are prioritizing speed of fielding platforms versus specific things. So this MXN unification, or the Marine Corps network unification beyond the MXN as a Marine Corps enterprise information environment, we are looking at from tactical through garrison. We need to understand the architecture that has to be modular to understand, anything that engineering change comes in. How do we deal with that? After all, we are going after enabling joint and coalition command and control, finishing kill webs. That goes back to Keegan's point where data centricity matters. So this MXN unification is going to help us with unifying the MXN Marine Corps networks, providing the sensor data that I'm sure Mr. Thomas will talk about as you are protecting the cyber terrain across the garrison to tactical area, makes it easier for identifying threat and providing additional capabilities such as zero trust. When you combine, collapse different network, now you have unified network that you can see, you can look at the threat, and also working with the mission partner environment and providing the Marine Corps needs that is useful within the mission that we are out for. So we'll talk. Some of those things that we support is we're looking at simplifying sensor fusions. So now you have a multi-sensor network that provides the data back to the individual Marine. As we said from the commandants, the force design itself, individual Marine is the heart, within the heart of the Marine Corps force design. So it's the Marine is the lethal weapon for the Marine Corps. So we want to make sure the Marine has all the technologies and capabilities who can support using the sensor to shooter and providing the battle space awareness for the fight that we are going for. So in the acquisition world, we are supporting, providing modular architecture designs, how we unified our tactical programs, as Marine Corps Systems Command also owns program of records on the tactical side and working on the garrison side, unifying total, complete, unified network. I think let's leave it there.
Okay. So, more questions. How many of you know zero trust? Okay. Now the second part of that question. How many of you have heard about or know about Salt Typhoon? Okay, good. It's better than before. Okay. So why I'm saying that is MAR4 Cyber, MAR4 Space, we have the operational requirement to secure, operate, defend the entirety of the Marine Corps cyberspace environment. And what that means is beyond the Marine Corps Enterprise Network, to include industrial control systems, FRCS, SCADA, to include training systems, to include POR systems, everything that is part of that unification of the MXN that we're talking about, right? On NIPR, on SIPR, on any kind of enclave that Marine Corps users are on, right? To include those tie-ins to joint and coalition partner environments, right? And that is a requirement back to MAR4 Cyber that we have to go back to U.S. Cyber Command and Joint Force Headquarters Doden, right? And we don't take that lightly because that is our service requirement. To be able to do that, what I mentioned in terms of zero trust, right? It's got to go look across all the pillars. It's got to go look across all the control areas, right? And at the same time, you have to be tapped into what the threat environment is, right? There's a couple of new things that you guys are also tracking, right? Clear defense contractors. Probably every single individual or organization out here is probably tied to that. New technologies, right? Artificial intelligence, machine learning, right? Everybody has to have the ability to have the inherency on what is going on in that cyberspace environment beyond just the human to the system to those 7 different pillar areas, right? And doing action on that. Well, what about anomaly detection? What about better awareness of that environment, right? And then from my lens, as I said on unification, all of these systems tied together, right? I need to have water and energy. I need to have power. I need to have various in terms of logistics and how to make that less congested in whatever scenario we are, whether we're talking about the Africa, UCOM theaters or in the Indo-Pacific theater. Getting stuff out there and being able to put mission target effectiveness, that is critical for us because that's what we owe back to Headquarters Marine Corps and to any COCOM because we are part of that functional COCOM. Now, on that, I will go on to this next question for Mr. Mills here. What are some of the design principles that enable unification at echelon and a true data-centric approach to security?
True data-centric approach to security. That's kind of the holy grail of what we're after. You ask what attributes do we aspire to enable this unification? True data centricity, meaning that your protection is really around an atomic particle of data that is somehow aware of security principles, that it is protected, independent of a platform or an application stack. That is kind of the holy grail. That would do it. That would simplify everything to the point of the lowest common denominator, the particle of data. Also, you would have to have that same sort of concept for identity. So it's really about subjects and resources is the way the NIST standards talk about it. You translate that to identity and data. So what we have to do is figure out all the ways that we have to protect a particle of data that's agnostic of a platform or an application stack, wherever it is in the world, wherever it is in the computing environment, for all time. That's a really hard thing to do. We have really good mechanisms to do that in an enterprise environment in a centralized way with good connectivity. Cloud platforms do that well. It doesn't work so well in the most distributed environments when that data can exist in multiple places. Once you transport from anywhere to anywhere securely, which we can do and we're pretty good at, how do you maintain control of that once it's there? Once you unwrap it, you've lost control. So that data can be copied and pasted into something else or screenshotted or any number of things could happen to it. And then you have to take into consideration the compute stack you're actually working with. So we have to consider that any data that is created without security. It's born without security. So there's a period of time in which the data exists and then something is applied to it to protect it. And although that may be measured in milliseconds, we're dealing with machine speed now. We're dealing with AI. We have to think in milliseconds. So these are all things that we have to solve for to get to a true data-centric environment.
Thank you, Keegan. I would say I'm going to open up for questions in a little bit. So if you have any questions, jot them down. It's coming. This next question is related to this previous conversation, but also tied into some of the questions you may have. Right? We look at network in terms of this unification and modernization in terms of three different angles that industry and our partners are probably providing to us. Right? One is you need to have a transport agnostic network. Doesn't matter what that pathway is, as long as that data gets to the other area in a secure manner. The second part of it is cybersecurity, maximum cybersecurity across the entirety of that terrain. Because then, Marine Corps side, we can provide that adequate information back to the COCOM, and also whether it be Navy or any of the other service partner elements, we do combined joint all-domain command and control, right? Assured C2 is there. And the third part is data centricity, right? As Mr. Mills mentioned before, how to encapsulate that particle of data from one segment to the other segment, and that is critical, right? And so now I'm going to pass it on to the panel members here to talk about how we are achieving that, both from the enterprise side, from the tactical side, and how we're aligned to all of our different COCOMs and our operational forces. And then after that, I'll open it up for questions.
I'll sort of take a look shot at this from the CISO perspective first, which is the the ability for us to guarantee the security of the information to the max extent possible without stopping without putting too much resistance to the flow of that information to the people that need it. You know, the risk that we take, and we understand what's going in with our network, is now insufficient in this network where we're sharing data across many different domains, ones that we don't control, and those that we may not even understand with clarity the people that are going to receive it. I think NATO partners and those things. So so while we have an appreciation for the security that we control, how we do that across these various boundaries creates a level of complexity that makes it more challenging for us to ensure that that it's the confidentiality, integrity of that data is maintained every place it is moving. So we have to look at the systems that we know that are going to touch the data, and where these atomic particles that Keegan talked about, how they maintain the level of security across those boundaries for anybody that receives it, and have a level of confidence that that integrity and security will be maintained wherever it lies and whichever decision maker sees it.
Yeah, so, now coming back on, we talked about what the network should look like, and what we are moving towards, transport agnostic. Ideally, the network we are looking at, which would be a lot more in the future, is that ideally the network should behave as, as an adaptive organism that continuously, evolves and, adjusts to whatever the threat that comes through it, and, supports on the mission that is needed. So how do we get that far? What we are doing now is, as those of you don't know, Marine Corps Systems Command has a subordinate command called MCTISA, which stands for Marine Corps Tactical Support System Activity. Recently, it was granted an STRL authority, which stands for Science and Technology Reinvention Labs. So what that really helps us is that brings the gap between the S&T that goes on, work that through the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab, to the program office that we have within the acquisition, portfolio. It helps us bring the experiments at this location, which is located in Camp Pendleton, bringing R&D, S&T to bridging the gap with the actual programs that you can scale up and deliver the capabilities. So we constantly looking for opportunities such as experiments that goes on as a joint service environment with the Marine Corps side, and set up a different capabilities wherever folks they participate. We do analyze, we learn the lessons learned, analyze those, and provide some of those capabilities that can be transitioned to the program office. So on the acquisition side, we have also adjusted some of those contracting processes. The STRL authority that we received for MCTISA allows them to conduct their certain level of contracting right from their office, so they don't have to go through a lot of reviews and such. So we are streamlining acquisition processes to support whatever the capability that we are delivering. In this case, Unified MCSEN or Marine Corps Networks, how we can do the speed to capability from the acquisition side without breaking any laws, and utilizing some of those congressional support that we have, using different contracting methods such as other transaction authorities and such, to get the capability out faster and sooner to support the materials that we need to go after.
So a couple of things from the operational side that I want to bring up before Mr. Mills goes. One is, from my side, like I talked about transport agnostic, right? One industry to give me P3E, which is 3 preliminaries and an emergency. That means there is no single point of failure anywhere in the network, right? In the creation of the network, in the tear down of the network, right? Nobody in terms of that marine that's using it can see the difference, whether it's going through SATCOM, fiber optic line, or any terrestrial uh, line of sight, whatever, right? And the other part is cybersecurity. I need everybody to look at cybersecurity as a capability portfolio, and that's something that the Department of Navy is just, striving on in terms of cyber readiness. Right, we're going to be doing continuous ATOs too. Is continuously monitoring every single system or system of systems that are out there on variance and compliance. And if there is something in terms of problems, it's not that 3-year ATO that got approved and nobody and put it on the back of the shelf, because we understand industry is changing, right? And we also understand the adversary is changing. So the only way to keep up is we have to monitor the variance of those systems, right? And then I need, in terms of something that I'm going to ask from the industry side, right, is what are the challenges facing a data-centric approach to networks, and how can public-private partnerships overcome those challenges? But at the same time, I see Mr. Dave is cringing on something. So
No, he brought up those continuous ATO, and as an AO for acquisition side, I had to make this comment because I also have a couple of folks in the audience. They have been maximizing that capability right now. So Marine Corps, if you were in my discussion previously, we're constantly looking out for how to improve our RMF processes. We have successfully certified first ever Marine Corps Community Services Software Factory. The individual is right here as a RAISE platform of choice, which RAISE stands for Rapid, Assess and Incorporate Software Engineering. So what does that mean is that when you certify the RAISE platform of choice, that whole DevSecOps pipeline is certified as one ATO. And if you're coming out of like 10, 15, 20 applications within that, environment, you don't need an ATO. So they are constantly able to provide any applications to the warfighter without going through any paperwork, which we are proud to say that we have a 1 RPOC. We also have, from an MNRA perspective, we have leadership here. They are implementing continuous monitoring on a lot of next generations of tools that we can actually see on an AO scale, live dashboard through even our RAISE and other applications, so we know what threat we are dealing with. So proud to say some of those examples that we are moving forward with those technologies, adopting new technologies, helping our mission owners to deliver the capability those Marines that need today without going through those additional processes. So thank you for that opportunity.
okay, thank you. And from the technology nerd side, I need to understand the public-private partnerships and how everybody can integrate with this.
So Sherry set me up with the call to action speech. Thank you. So a couple of things that I think every one of us on the stage said the term transport agnostic at least once. I don't know if anybody's keeping count. Mr. Dave talked about another key attribute about essentially a self-healing kind of concept of what is a network that's able to dynamically respond to threats. I think the call to action here is we have to reimagine what the word network actually means to us. What is it that we care about? We care about the subjects and the resources, the data and the identities. The connectivity piece of that is something that we typically conjure in our brains when someone says the word network. We think plumbing. We think wires and fibers and switches and routers and firewalls. And we need to separate that from our idea of what network means. That is important. Let's call it connectivity. Let's call it the underlay. And let's focus on the overlay. We build those two things together, but they are two different things. A composable underlay and a composable overlay means that you have the data maneuverability that we've been hearing about so far this week from the Don CIO. That is what it means. We need to think about networks differently. So I challenge every one of you, when you hear the word network, expel the image of the plumbing. That's not what we mean. It's important. We need that stuff, but that's the connectivity. That's the underlay. Let's work on the overlay as well. It's a separate piece.
Okay, and now this is where industry can get some information on what we are looking for, right? Okay, couple of terms here. You heard about cybersecurity, you heard about resilient networks or communication pathways, signature reductions, artificial intelligence, and automation, right? Now, from the panel members, we're going to inform you on different specific areas that we need help on or how we can come together. And then, following that, if there is something that the industry side can offer or generic questions, bring it up. And then, afterwards, each of the panel members are going to be available for specific questions.
Thank you, Sherry. The I would say that we end up spending a large amount of energy on very exquisite solutions to that protect the networks and the data that's flowing through them. And while those are very important, if you look at the way that the networks and systems are exploited today, it's not the exquisite stuff that's eating our lunch. It's the simple things where we have people clicking on the wrong links, misconfigurations always in the top 5 system misconfigurations, even in the cloud. Those are, the cloud technology is secure. It's when it's misconfigured generally where you get exploited, and it's got the additional problem that once you put stuff into the cloud, you don't go back and necessarily look at those configurations until you have a problem. And so what I would suggest that we need is ways to automate and validate those configurations in a real-time basis. We spent a large amount of effort at least looking at that for our end user devices with various products that are out there. And those have been helpful, but even those are not sufficient to meet the need, right? So we've got to get to the point where we're at least getting rid of the low-hanging fruit of exploitations. So things that are easily configured and maintained to be configured and known to be configured properly and checked are areas where I think that would have a much better payoff than we're having today.
Yeah, so so a couple of things here, right? So on the acquisition side, we all know government cannot have solutions, without partnering with not just within the services, but industry, academia, even mission partners. Without their working together, we cannot never achieve any solutions. So the things that goes on, we are looking at some of those capabilities we talked about. We are constantly looking for different ways of doing things, right? If you have a solutions that we can leverage and make things faster, better, without breaking any problems. Those kind of things we are always looking for help. Some of the areas are like, we still have to do traditional RMF, that is required by law. So we are looking for ways of implementing processes, automation where it's possible. There's always human in the loop where AO has to understand the system risk that has been described. So the tools that we are looking for and that helps us make the decision faster. There are tools out there we can use on a threat-based assessment on the cyber side that actually helps us understand if you have a large amount of vulnerabilities, how do I prioritize those vulnerabilities? So we use some of the tools that actually help us based on our mission that we are trying to complete the kill web. We understand that these are the important key factors of the systems, and so if you have thousands of issues, how do you leverage that these are the 5, 10, 15, 20 things that you need to do first to patch those systems before you go to the 1,000th or whatever you see the numbers for. So we are always looking for things that helps us prioritize our effort, the work that we are doing. We are leveraging cloud services really crazily. We are also looking at unifying cloud services that we have across Marine Corps when it's possible, because it makes things easier for the operating and defending, that where Mr. Thomas is coming from. So those areas where we're looking for expertise on, things like, for example, looking at ATOs in the cloud environment. You need to understand what you're building, what kind of, controls you're going to need. All those things are really needed. So based on the DoD guidance, we have implemented a cybersecurity workforce, that goes by coding, that are job requirement, and the training. So we are also looking for some training opportunities that is out there that helps us, with the workforce, that they need to understand the next generation of tools and technologies and processes that we have to deal with. A lot of those other things we talked about cloud side, impact level 6, which is IL6 we talk about in the secret side. It's a major deal for the Marine Corps because we fight the war on SIPR, basic things. So it's really important for us to understand the environment and have tools readily available for us to move faster and better for delivering products.
So I'm not going to ask for a faster horse. I want you to think about what we've achieved through some of the more recent things that we've been after, like zero trust. We've caught bad guys doing bad things because of those tools and those configurations. We've stopped lateral movement on those platforms because the idea of your geography on the network no longer gains you the access that it once did. What's next? What does this evolve to? So is this enabling data-centric security? What does that atomic particle of data look like? What do we need to do differently in order to achieve the separation of the connectivity from our idea of network? What does that look like? That's all.
I'll add one other item. We had an agreement. Whoever said AI first on this panel has to buy dinner tonight. So I'll go ahead and say it here, which is there's this big promise of AI coming, and is in fact being taken advantage of. But within the security ecosystem, there's many of the things that we need to look at that we still haven't quite figured out how we're going to do things like testing it. How much does a model have to drift before we have to completely retest it? How do we ensure that we certify it in these various environments that it may be used? And I think that's something that the larger community is going to have to help us solve. Right now, many of those AI capabilities are being given to us. We're certainly interested in adopting it at scale as quickly as we can for all the right reasons. But we need to recognize that we need to have an appreciation for when we should start to lose confidence in the decisions that it's making, and have the ability to recognize that that's happening. I don't think we fully understand that, both from a capability standpoint and clearly from a cybersecurity standpoint.
Okay, more questions. How many are defense contractors, clear defense contractors, defense industrial base out here? Okay, how many are aware of the Cybersecurity Collaboration Center? How many are participating in that? Very good. I need more hands up next time I ask that question. The reason is NSA.
What about the other one, the DIB cybersecurity? How about any collaboration, not just the triple C? Okay, cool.
Okay. The reason we ask these two questions are because there are public-private partnerships out there. That is specifically NSA providing cybersecurity information to the clear defense contract, defense industrial base that is working with the government and how to get better cybersecurity and better awareness of what is that adversary action happening, right? At the same time, right, we are partnering. Government is partnering with other governmental agencies like CISA, FBI, CIA, and various other cybersecurity angles from the different areas, whether it be housing and urban development, for example. We are partners. Leverage that. At the same time, You all have partners where you're working or probably going to different forums saying, okay, similar to this one, you're going to one of those other ones saying, oh, I have this great tool, great product, great thing, right? Let's come together and say, how does it work together as an enterprise or as a joint capability that works for all of us, right? And so that way, right, when it's being sold to that particular thing, now from the defense or from the industry angle, you get better cybersecurity, better toolage, better everything that you can pitch back to the other side too, saying, oh, we need it from there. Well, you guys probably do too. I bring some more concepts here, right? Signature management. When some new tool or capability is being put out, please also think about what that signature emanation footprint is. What is the electromagnetic interference? What is the electromagnetic spectrum that everybody is exhibiting? Because the last thing that we want to see is a Marine putting out kilowatts of energy, for example, and sticking out like a sore thumb, because then the adversary, it's an easy target right there, right? At the same time, we got to figure out, as Dr. Corbin mentioned, right, as our SDO is in the back of the room, right, we are developing AI, machine learning, and all this post-quantum computing technology, and so is the industry partners. How is that coming together, right? And are you all able to detect anomalies or detect issues, whether it be adversary action, generative AI, ethical AI, whatever, right? It's the wild, wild west right now. And how can we contain that set of information, that set of data, and the duplication of that data? From my lens, cybersecurity side, and also from R4 cyber side, right? I look at ilities. When, and it applies across this Marine Corps panel, right? When something is being pitched back to us, is it scalable, right? Yes, this 1Z tool is great. How does it scale across the entirety of the enterprise network? Is it feasible? Can we deploy something in a timely manner, and does it become more cumbersome to the G6s, the S6s, S2s, or whoever is the operational user? Is it sustainable, right? Because I don't want a product that's 6 months in and then now I have to replace everything. Is it affordable, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not just about the ROI or the bottom line for the company, but it's also the governmental enterprise that says we got to go back to headquarters and probably at the bean counters that saying, yes, that new tool, it is worth it. And then at the same time, I know Dr. Corbin's team is working on something called Divest to Invest. We got to get rid of something. Can't keep putting new and new capabilities out there, right? And then is it integratable, right? Can it go into the existing architecture versus, yes, this is new whiz-bang solution. Yeah, I need to greenfield approach the entirety of the network, the entirety of everything that we've built over the last 20, 30, 40 years. So I'll leave it there unless anybody else from the panel has any additional comment there, and I'll open it up for additional questions because that's what we want to hear.
I think let's go with the questions, and if there's no more, we can add more things, additional stuff. Anyone, please? Can you come up to the mic?
Where where are you guys at regarding implementing like a software-defined environment in Mixen?
So let me take a quick stab at that. We just had a discussion on that, like, the software-defined capabilities. As we talked about, there's many things that are needed for us to deliver rapidly. So there was one of the examples was, without going to the specific things, so we are utilizing the software factories, containerizing the applications that can be moved to different platforms. So it's easier to move from one platform to another platform. Some of the examples in the tactical areas, we have consolidated that where we needed a different radar system, a different software that was running in a mobile truck or something. So we have consolidated, for example, having 6,000, kilogram type of, environment that you needed to have that capability into like 25, 30 pound box that runs containerized software defined applications that was needed on a different platforms. Now you can bring that in as a containerized application. So we are moving very quickly towards that goal, as that how do we containerize some of those legacy applications and other capabilities that requires some of the specific hardware and underlying other things that we don't need anymore. And now we can just take that, app, containerized app, and put that in a plug and play way. So there's some progress being made for the individual Marines, that they no longer need to have all that much weight, versus they can have a small box and just have all the similar capabilities within the area. So not everywhere is going on, but that's the path we are going in. Those couple of examples. Hope that helps. Anything?
Okay, my name is Catherine Carter. I'm from Tritus. We provide CSFC. I was wondering, based on what you guys, great panel, love the format. How do you balance or ensure an ideal user experience with accessing the secure data while having the handling the logistic and cost of IT and cybersecurity personnel to provide the necessary support and backend? And then how do you balance your needs of having thick versus thin clients and pain points? Thanks.
I'll get started and then we can move around. Several things. CSFC is a big deal for us, right? As you can't afford to have multi-domain secure, computing power everywhere you go. So we have a couple of experiments that is going on, across the Marine Corps, where one of those comes under my acquisition AO authorities, that we are testing some of the solutions, some of them with different units, 2MEF, that goes from Dr. Corbin's AO authorities, from the service side. So we're constantly looking for those things, but we have to also rely on NSA to certify those designs that goes into play, which is also another, I don't want to say challenge, but there's people, industry sometimes not realizing some of the things that are needed as a requirement. And that is what I was actually going to comment, towards my last session, that, we really encourage industry to understand, aligning the solution that our operational requirements are, to make things easier, because we have some solutions that we take it to the NSA for design, reviews and such, and they find a lot of holes, and then it comes back, that goes back and forth. So that's the area that we are looking for. How do we fill that gap that, goes back and forth, that we can reduce that? Because if the vendor or industry understand like what is really needed, they can actually build things based on the needs. So CSFC, bottom line, absolutely, solid requirement for us to move forward, as we can't afford to carry all those, boxes around. We haven't, again, experimenting those, technologies, haven't cracked the nut yet, fully. I understand your background is in CSFC, and I know we had talked before, but that's where we are from solution side, but I'll give other option.
Okay, CSFC, Commercial Solutions for Classified. Okay, so now I turn this back into Marine Corps Enterprise Network lingo. What is that? It is a warfighting information network. And what I mean by that is, what is that end soldier, end Marine, end soldier, and any service member need out of CSFC, need out of any particular technology that's out there, right? Because that's what we need to go sell back, whether it ties into logistics or IT or anything. How is it operationally viable? How does it work in a DDoS environment? Please answer these questions. Please take them down and answer them, because those are the ones that we will have to go answer. And how does it improve? Because I talked about divest to invest. How does it improve fighting tonight, the readiness of our force tonight? Because at the end of the day, whether it be industry, whether it be people wearing shiny shoes with nice ties, you need to go back and answer somebody that is down in the tactical edge and say, I gave you enough bandwidth to do that particular thing. I gave you enough, security to do that thing, because he's going to be like, this is too hard to figure out. I'm going to toss it out, and I'm just going to do line of sight communication. Please We don't want that to happen because there's enough technology and there's enough things out there that everybody's providing great things. Help us answer those questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Exceptional panel. Sally Kenyon Grant with Darktrace Federal. A question about testing, Keegan Mills, for the 90-day as we look at unsupervised machine learning, behavioral continuous. This is the self-learning machine learning unsupervised. Really tricky. I love the points earlier regarding U.S. Cyber Command and NSA testing within those networks, within everything coming together. I think as we test within U.S. Marine Corps, that is easy. But when we add in all those other systems, Mr. Dave, how are we going to be able to test that well with getting those permissions? Thank you so much.
Let me take a step, really. You just highlighted our current situation, challenge that we are facing. Dr. Corbin and I, as an AO for the Marine Corps, we have to validate, certify. There's various technology comes in as a large language models, as we write our own thing. How do we make sure that, some of those inputs that are provided by large language models, they are valid? And that is, I want to say I don't have a better answer right now because it's a big challenge for us to understand if I get a large language models within the services, not just outside, what you just said, like even within the service, how do I know that this is valid enough that we can certify that technology or the large language model that is supporting, various capabilities across Marine Corps and, by the way, with the joint mission partners and all that. So because as you introduce the more data sets, we have to figure out what is the guessing point, what is the fill in blanks that the model is generating besides the actual data that we have. And that's a continuous problem. I don't have a better answer than that, but that's a challenge that really is we are facing right now and trying to go after that to understand that.
Just to get a little bit more foundational as to how we go about that, we have to have a place to do it. So it's hard to justify, actually it's impossible to justify experimentation at that level with those kind of tools and that kind of capability on our production network. So we need I'm going to say the word digital twin. I know everybody, a digital twin or a representative environment that's close enough, a digital sibling, if you will, of the mixen or a proper lab environment in order to do that kind of work.
Okay. I like questions, right? Okay. Everybody tracking Kratos? Cooperative research and development agreements? Okay. Everybody tracking systems of systems, integration and exercise or testing? Okay. These are avenues where you have lab testing, where you have live virtual constructive environments, exercise testing. Everybody tracking 3 different things that services are providing. One is called Overmatch, another one is called Convergence, and the third one is called Dynamis, right? And the fourth one you can say, because our Air Force buddies are not here, ABMS, right? 4 different areas where services can interoperate with one another, test each other's wares. At the same time, there's industry forums where industry can test their latest hardware, technologies, whatever it is, right? These are venues where everybody needs to take advantage of. Kratos, specifically with our Syscom crowd, right, can go into their labs and go test out those things in that system of systems environment and see how your thing behaves with everything else that's out there, right? And change the parameters and see how it behaves. What I say bottom line with that is more reps and sets into any one of your systems, whether it be artificial intelligence, machine learning, or any new capability. Put it through the cycles. See what happens. Right? There is no failure. You're always learning. Right? We're learning too. And then we're going to get a better product out of it. I'm also probably going to get shut off in time. So concluding comments from everybody for about 30 seconds, please.
I'll start. We started by talking about this convergence of networks so that we could move data around the the ecosystem so that decision makers can get access to it. That includes, at least for the Marine Corps, one of the objectives was to allow the tactical users to get access to information. What I didn't mention is that when the concept first came up, it was really about making, allowing the warfighters to be able to stand up their networks quickly when they deployed so that they could immediately connect into the enterprise. And with that, because historically the tactical networks and the administrators of those had a lot greater ability to maneuver because they controlled it, and they controlled it. So, matter of fact, General O'Donoghue at the time, who approved the concept in 2011 or 2012, he very succinctly thought, the rest of us didn't think about it. I mean, a big brain guy like he is, said just that. He said, how are we going to deal with the problem of the war fighters in the tactical environment who have enjoyed the ability to maneuver, administer their networks on their own without putting the rest of the ecosystem. And now we're talking about the entire ecosystem being the rest of the DoD, not just the Marine Corps. And we think we now have all of that certainly nailed down, but it's not an easy thing to do, to be able to say somebody who has had the ability to change their network to meet their needs. It's a big cultural shift. And so when you think about it, the technology, we're kind of getting there, and I won't say it as easy as you would think it was, but then you have all these other issues, which are the human side of this to be able to accomplish it.
I have just a quick thing. Got a bunch of Marines out there. Please talk to them on what their concerns are, because that is what we need to go out from the field out here. Answer those questions, please. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. He said it well. You know, the individual Marines are the one that they inform the requirements for us. So we appreciate their service and their input. But I just wanted to thank you all for joining us this session. Looking forward to talking to you all. Appreciate your time and have a nice day. Thank you.